We are recording.
We are. Oh, yes.
The Struggle is Real podcast.
Okay. Hey, y'all.
Okay. This is Wes.
This is MDAT.
We're back with another episode, another week.
Yep.
All right, guys. Welcome back. Welcome back. MDAT.
This is MDAT.
Oh, my God. This is Wes.
You're supposed to say.
What? This is the Struggle is Real podcast.
It sure is. Where adulting gets too real.
Where one person's struggles is another's hustle.
And where you find the beauty in the art of struggle.
Welcome back.
That's all I was waiting for. I was like, are we going on script or not?
Yeah, I messed that one up.
It's okay.
I messed that one up.
Next time. It's only been 3 weeks, but it's fine. It's fine.
Yeah, you're right. It's only been yeah. It ain't. Look, man, I'm not practicing it in the car, which I probably should be, but you know, it is what it is.
Well, so we're back with another week. It's been an eventful week, I think, for me. Only that I went to work every day this past whole week, which usually they give me a couple of days off, but I work straight through.
I went to work every day this week, too.
Yeah, I know. Monday through Friday.
Yeah.
But I did Monday through Thursday.
Oh.
Because randomly they gave me like one day off out of nowhere, and they tried to schedule me for today.
All right.
And I was like, but why?
All right.
Like I've never worked a Saturday before.
Ever?
Not ever, but like it's been a while.
Wow.
And my schedule has been pretty consistent. And then I was like, so why did y'all change it all of a sudden? And I just think that they weren't paying attention, but they took it off from me anyway. Because, I mean, I have a schedule where I take my son to school, somebody else picks him up and takes him home, I don't know, through the day. But I was like, you know, I try to give, you know, my father-in-law, who does take him home and does homework with him in the evenings and stuff, puts him to bed and everything. I try to give him, you know, the weekend.
Right.
So I have my own child pretty much for the weekend.
Right.
And so any responsibility, that's on me. But, you know, work, they don't be thinking about that. They're just like, oh, maybe Mary hasn't worked this Saturday. Don't know why, but
right.
Obviously they probably should know because we talk about this quite often.
Right.
But, you know, beggars can't be choosers.
Right.
So what did we talk about last week?
Last week we talked about struggling with a person's perception of you.
Yes.
Almost didn't remember. I'm like, it was struggling something.
I did have a few conversations with some people that listened, and they thought, like, oh, that's quite interesting, because they didn't know, I guess, how I viewed myself.
Right.
And then I don't think people think about, I'm sorry, my feet are extremely hot because I have on these footies. So, like, it's starting to get real cold, and there are these footies that are, like, super fuzzy. Right. You know what I'm talking about?
The thermal socks?
Yeah. They're being, like, Walgreens and such.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. And what is 7-Eleven?
So
sometimes I gotta get the drinks from
I stack up on those during the cold seasons, and my feet are, like, sweating right now, and I had on boots. But anyway, so they thought it was interesting, like, in different ways that I viewed myself or that other people viewed me. But I also had to sort of reflect on how I viewed myself.
Right.
And why I have these perceptions of people.
Right.
I don't know how to fix it yet. I'm imperfect, but there's some, I pretty much get along with a lot of people. But when I find that people don't necessarily want to get along with me, or somebody that's just too much into themselves, at least in my viewpoint,
right,
I end up not liking them,
right,
or feeling like there's something about them that I don't like. And I still have to find out exactly what that is. And sometimes I tell myself, well, is it that, you know, maybe they're more comfortable with themselves than I'm comfortable with myself? Maybe that's what I don't like. For instance, if it's someone
like you might be projecting they're not necessarily projecting anything, or putting off a vibe. It's more or less like you see something. There's something in them.
Something that bothers me about them.
but it might be you.
Right.
That's
because this is what we were talking about last week. Because if it's somebody that has a problem with me, maybe it's something that, you know, they would like to see themselves doing or see themselves being a certain way.
Right.
And then sometimes I have to ask myself, is that how I feel about myself when I look at a certain person that I don't particularly care for or find, I don't really like this person.
You should just be like me. I don't like nobody, to be honest.
I know that's not me, because I like working in an environment where like everybody gets along. That's not always the case. And sometimes you have to think about why that is. But at the same time, like, I don't know what's going on behind closed doors when they go home.
Right.
If they're, you know, sort of accustomed to a certain thing, maybe there is a prejudice there, or maybe they're just so cut off by, you know, social groups that they are not used to. Maybe they've never been around Black people in particular for most of their life, and then all of a sudden that's awkward to them. Or maybe, you know, somebody's in an abusive relationship where they're not supposed to be connected to someone. So those things I sort of think about, and so this is one thing. I try to be empathetic to a lot of people because I'm an actor, and we're just always taught to view people in both lights. Like, you just don't automatically say, oh, I don't like this person because they're weird, or I don't like this person because they have an attitude. Like, there's always a reason behind the villain, you know, not to say that these people are evil, but there's always a reason why somebody is the way that they are. And that could be something that they're not sharing because it's something they don't want to share, which they have a right to not share, or something that's going on with them that they feel like they can't share because, you know, they're in danger or something like that. So anytime that I ever feel like, oh, I don't like somebody, or I just don't like how they act, I always wonder if that's a personal thing, a personal issue with me, or is there something really going on with them?
Right.
And I'll never know, really, but I try not to judge. I try to just deal with people in the profession that I'm in
that moment.
Exactly. And so we help each other when we need to, but otherwise than that, we don't need to be friends. Like, it's okay to keep it moving. Exactly.
Yeah.
But that topic had me thinking a lot about certain people. Especially ones that I work with, because I love a smooth environment.
Who doesn't? I mean,
but if it can't be smooth, I always try to figure out, is it me or is it really them?
Yeah. I mean, of course, the key to dealing with people is knowing how to deal with different types of people.
Yeah.
And I've learned that, actually, that's something I got taught in college, but I just choose not to deal with people. Yeah. And I ain't gonna say that's my fault, but it's just kind of like, I hear exactly what you're saying, and I do think about those things, but sometimes I'm like, they should be able to separate that, just like I'm able to separate it, and don't treat a motherfucker the way that they're treating them, or don't act the way that they acting. Like, it was this one guy. It's crazy though. It's this one. He doesn't work at the company that I work for anymore, but small world. He was older guy at that. He's married to a girl that I went to high school with and had a crush on. And was on the borderline of almost trying to get with her way back when. Like, on the borderline. So, he just said some of the most outrageous shit out of his mouth. Like, he asking, where's my, like, teammate, the Oriental? I'm like, the Oriental? Like shit like that at the office. And I'm like, well, they're Filipino. He's like, well, you know what I mean. I'm like, nah,
no.
I don't.
Yeah, so a lot of people need to go back and understand what is acceptable and not acceptable.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
They describe people.
That's what I mean, like stuff like that. And I'm like, come on, like, and it's one of those things where I start to think, like, what makes you think you could say that in front of people? Like, what are they? What is your perception of them that, like, oh, I could just say this out? He probably doesn't think I'm outrageous, but I can just say this shit at work. Well, I can do whatever I want to do.
I can say this to a Black person and they're not going to get offended.
Right. And I'm like, dog, nah, I got offended.
Yeah.
Just because. I don't even like that person that he was talking about, but I still got offended because I'm like, you at work. Separate
you want to know
shit.
what I hate?
What?
I used to work, when I used to work for my other company, it was predominantly white, but and there were much, much older white women, and they didn't know no better, but at the same time, somebody needs to teach them. But they would talk about how they would go to all these different places overseas and stuff like that, and how they hated when the people would talk in their native tongue around them, and they were offended.
Hold on.
They were offended, and I was
what's stopping somebody from
what is your nerve?
What's stopping somebody from like, take your ass back to America? Like,
exactly. Like, what if they did that? That used to irk my nerves so much. Like, how dare you? Like, why does everybody have to talk in a tongue that you understand?
They felt a little, what is it called? Self-conscious. Like, maybe they're talking about me.
But they are. That's the thing. For the most part, they are. But at the same time, you need to get over that shit.
Yeah.
You need to get over that.
It's not
shit.
your world, dog.
Exactly.
Simple as that.
Exactly. And I feel the same way sometimes, but I'm not gonna say nothing.
I literally don't give a F. I'm like, look,
that's fine.
You gonna live your life, I'm gonna live my life. As long as our lives don't intersect for some negative reason, I don't have shit to worry about.
Right.
That's how I go about it.
So how was your week?
My week was pretty chill. Finishing some stuff at work. Mm-hmm. Trying to prepare for this interview and stuff like that. And one of my teammates the other day, we were watching. He doesn't know I'm going on an interview for another. Of course, he wouldn't know. Right. I'm going on another interview. I mean, an interview for another position or whatever. So we we sitting in the office and shit. He just so happened to be in this office. He's rarely here. And he's like, "You ever heard of this show?" I forget the name of the show, but basically it's on CNBC where they go undercover for interviews and stuff like that, and they show people saying the wrong things, the right things, like nervous little tics and shit like that. And in my head, I'm like, motherfucker, like, this is what you decide to show me? Shit was funny as hell. You should check it out. It's on demand. I think it's called I forget what it's called, but interview something. Funny as a motherfucker. One dude was sweating bullets. You know how guys got the stubble on their face when they first shave and stuff like that? He was getting tissue to wipe his forehead and his face, like nose tissue, and the shit got stuck all up in his face.
Oh my God.
And the women that were interviewing them could not help but they tried not to laugh, but it was just, he was struggling, dog. Struggling. I'm talking about like he had the suit jacket on, half of the collar was popped, the other one was laying down and shit like that. I'm like, but you went in the bathroom to check yourself out. And your shit still pop. So stuff like that. It's
interviews are very stressful. Like, no matter how comfortable you are with something, the fact that you have to go in front of a stranger and prove yourself.
Yeah, so that kind of weirded me out but made me laugh. But the thing is, I'm going into a panel interview, so it's going to be 3 separate people. Yeah. So I'm like, all right, I have to focus on remembering to give eye contact to each and every individual that I'm talking to. When they ask me a question, I'm giving my answer. Eye contact, sit up straight. And then, my wife was like, well, you should get a suit. Because I don't own a suit. I know that's right. I should own a suit.
But it happens when you're in when you have a casual job. Yeah. Because the same thing for my husband. Like, even when he was interviewing for certain things, their attire is always casual. So, right.
The thing is, I never, every interview that I went on, I never wore a suit. So I was asking my teammate, I was like, well, when you interview for this job, I was like, did you wear a suit? He was like, yeah. And I'm like, shit, I didn't wear one. I just did a tie, button up, slacks, shoes and shit like that. And he was
I think that's considered like suitable.
Nah, I won't be suited and booted. You know what I mean? Okay. Like, I really want this job, so I'm like, I need to show this. And then he was like, he tells me, he's like, well, I didn't wear a tie. I'm like, what? You wore a suit without a tie? He's like, yeah, I don't like being restricted. And I'm like, you wore a suit without a tie?
That you can pull that off
to an interview?
Yes,
I've never seen. They always say wear a tie.
Depending on your skill and what you're doing. First of all, I think the logistics and rules of an actual job interview, I think if you can pull off a suit without a tie, it's fine. It's not like they're literally going to be concentrating. Oh, he was great in these avenues, but he forgot a tie.
I mean, I don't want my chest out like that. That's
no. Well, that's the thing. Like, you're not about to be like Rick James. You know what I mean?
I'm joking, but yeah,
you're not about to have your chest hairs out here, unless your chest hairs go up to your neck.
Nah, I ain't that old yet.
No.
But yeah, I've been preparing for that. Trying to run errands and shit like that. So it's been a real chill week. Checking out the fuckery that's in society, like checking the news every day, all this sexual assault shit. But I think we'll get to that at a later time during the show. So
that's fine.
Yeah,
it is stressful though.
It's sad.
It is. But so I guess for me this week, I've been getting ready to start rehearsal process for this show that's coming up in January. We start rehearsals in late November, so I've had to get like my work schedule together. Also switching complete work schedule, so I'm not going to be working nights anymore. It's going to be, daytime because the rehearsals are in the evening.
All right.
Also figuring out the logistics of this rehearsal, when I'm going to be needed, when I'm not going to be needed. And then, my husband recently got a promotion, and that is sort of, well, thanks. That's sort of driving me up the wall a little bit. It's a bittersweet thing because it's a blessing and a curse, because he has to relocate. That means he will have to move, which means that ultimately between his effective start date and between that and 30 days, he has to find an actual address to live in.
Yeah.
So we're trying to consider whether that's going to be an apartment or a house. Also, relocating means that the whole family relocates. We're going to decide to keep me and our son at home until he finishes school.
So when you say the whole family, does that mean dad too?
No.
Oh, okay.
It just means us. So me and my husband and my son and our son. So we have to figure out one, travel distance between his location, which is going to be in New York. But then the living is a little more comfortable and, I guess, manageable in Jersey. So coming from Jersey to New York, almost like sort of a Baltimore drive from Maryland or close DC borderline to a Baltimore, so to speak. But then having to figure out schools and where he's going to be, where I'm going to be,
right,
stuff like that. But it is a different bracket financially for all of us. So it's really interesting. And I've never moved into a space that is solely mine. Like we've always been under somebody else's space with them.
Right.
So this will be very interesting. Both of us being like newly, I mean, I say 2 years is still sort of newlywed. Not as newlywed, but
that's true.
Still newlywed and figuring out how we're living solely on our own without parental help.
Input.
And things like that. I mean, well, the input could still be there. But this is
it's not like this. It's not the same type of input as being in the house as stuff is going on.
But we are branching off into our own avenues and making decisions on our own. So that's going to be quite interesting. And we've sort of gone back and forth with you call, a realtor and talk to them and ask all these questions. And it's like, but what questions do I ask? Because,
gotcha. First thing I would say, depending on the county and stuff like that, and how close it is, check the demographics.
Definitely.
That's the first thing you do, and you check the crime. And then everything else will follow into where it needs to go. You know what I mean?
Definitely. So, just to get into this week's sort of structure of the show, we're going to be talking a little bit about schools this week, and Wes has not necessarily doesn't necessarily have children, but I think it'll be helpful to know this stuff in advance. But basically we're going to be talking about what we look for in our schools, and I think that we could even include the actual living area that we're going to be in as well.
All right.
and what to look for and those types of things. And then we're getting into our struggle of the day, which will be expectations that we have either for ourselves, for our spouse, or what expectations our spouse has for us, which I think will be a very interesting conversation. I actually got this idea from Story.
Motherfucker. You way too out talked to her.
But she actually had a different approach to it, but because
of course she did.
Because you are fairly new in the marriage category, I thought that at least starting with the expectations is a more easier topic to sort of navigate, where we can just talk about our views on marriage and what we want to happen in our marriage.
All right. I'm going to tell you like this. I think since I'm newly, and it's so new as it's like a month and some change.
Right.
I got all this stuff in the top of my head.
Yeah.
I don't know about you.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Yeah, we will. We will. So getting into our questionnaire segment, and this technically is not a questionnaire, but more so just bullet points of a certain avenue that I leaned into because of this recent promotion and things. And I was starting to basically, because we're relocating, knowing that we have to uproot our child into an environment that is completely new, not only to him, but to us too.
All right.
And having to figure out where exactly he would fit in. So, just, starting from where we are right now, we're in Washington, D.C., and our child goes to a public charter school, which is different from a public school. In that retrospect, I was raised and brought up in the public school system in DC. How about you?
See, the thing is, when how long was I living in DC? Like the first 10, 12 years, 13 years of my life, it was off and on. So it was public school and it was Catholic school. So whenever my mom and my stepdad could pay for tuition or whenever they, felt like they could, it'd be like maybe 2 years of pub, which was weird. That's why I never really.
That is interesting.
Yeah, and that's
like off and on.
Right, and that's another reason why it's hard for me to make friends, because I could not really make friends in that type of situation, and it will be a different school sometimes, or we were not that we were always moving around, but it's just like my mom be like, nope, don't like that, don't like that, don't like that one. So it's been off and on. So it's been public and private. So I can give you some answers towards.
Yeah,
I can give you insight towards both. So
it was very challenging for us in the beginning, figuring out where we were going to place our son. Like for me, homeschool would have been my first choice if I could.
Why does every mom go to that?
Because it's safe in your mind. You know what I mean?
I got you.
You are in control of what your child is learning.
Right.
And in an idealistic world, it's perfect. But
so the
only con for me is that we are in a household where we needed two incomes or two different types of money coming in.
Yeah, I got you.
And the fact that I was still pregnant when I was in college was hard too. So I still didn't work.
Right.
For, a few years when I had my child. What did help though was that I had family that were very close to educators and knew different schools or daycares that I could look at and look into to figure out where the best place was for him, because I wasn't homeschooling, which was fine. I also got lucky in that the first couple years, my son was born, my mother was retired, so she didn't work. And she basically was at home. So it was like I had a babysitter at the time, but everybody doesn't have that luxury.
I don't.
So for us, that was helpful. But then we did actually find a daycare that fit the needs of what we wanted our child to be and what we wanted him to do. It happened to be at the Department of Labor. Actually, they have a legit daycare that's almost set up like a school. So different age ranges go to different classrooms after the next year, and then their last year of that program was an actual accredited pre-kindergarten class.
Really?
Yes. So your child graduates from there and then can go straight to kindergarten from whatever school that you pick outside of that.
So you went to 2 graduations back to back.
Yes. Well, no, because the next school that he went to, a public charter school, it was pre-K to 5th grade.
No, I meant like pre-K, graduate, kindergarten, graduate.
Well, technically in his school, it was sort of like a small celebration where you get your certificate, not a graduation.
Yes, it's
not
going to be
like
it's going to be small. I remember.
But I was still in school at the time, so I couldn't even attend his kindergarten graduation, so to speak. But yeah. And so after 5th grade, then there's middle school.
I know I posted a kindergarten graduation of me on Facebook at one point in time, and come to find out, it was a bunch of people that went to the school in DC that I didn't even know.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I honestly think it's redundant to go from
I know.
those graduations back to back. It's like everybody wants to celebrate everything, and it's like, can we celebrate like legit milestones? Like, I understand they're going to like a grade level, but no, let's do it once they actually leave this particular school.
Right.
Then we could get into that. But anyway, so either way, my son is going to be graduating from 5th grade and moving on to middle school or junior high school, so they call it. But because of this move that's happening, he's not necessarily going to the same school that his friends would go to.
All right.
Because he's in a public charter school right now. And it is a bilingual immersion school. So
bilingual immersion. So what language?
So for him, it's French, and they also have a Spanish program.
Yeah, every time I hear immersion, it's always French.
Really?
Yeah, I never heard. Yeah, it's always French for some reason.
Really? Yeah. So we've been looking at. Well, I've been looking up certain schools, and in the area that we're relocating, they don't have any French programs.
Is he actually learning French?
Yeah,
and he's doing pretty good.
He's a fluent French speaker,
and he's doing pretty good.
No, he's doing more than pretty good.
Not.
He's
not
a fluent French speaker.
Okay. Because
you mean as far as academics?
French. As far as French,
he can speak fluent. He can write in French. He can read in French.
Okay, cool.
And he's been doing that since kindergarten.
That's cool.
So basically, the immersion schools in the area that we've been looking at are up to 5th grade. And they don't go any further than that into middle school.
But he's like, he's almost in the 5th grade. Isn't he? He's
in the 5th right now. So he'll be going to the 6th.
Yeah, so it's a no-go for those.
Well, it's a no-go in North Jersey, which is the area that we're looking in.
Yeah.
But in DC, yes, there is another middle and high school program for that, but that's if we were staying here.
Right.
So then that also brings a difficulty of how do we keep this going, which I feel that in terms of where it's going, he would either have to end up at a private school where we would have to pay tuition, which will cost more time, interviews, and all this financial aid applications, which I don't mind doing, but at the same time, I feel like it's either that or I just have to get him a private tutor. Now, that's
more money.
Yeah, it's all more money either way.
It's probably more money than private school.
The private tutor?
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see. But getting into that. But I pulled up this article, and what was really weird, I don't understand why they wouldn't come up with an issue every year talking about what you look for in schools for your child.
All right.
A lot of the recent ones were in like 2011, 2012.
I mean,
and there was one that came out in March of 2017 from Time Magazine.
Yeah.
They're online.
I think it's because it's one of those things where American school system is so iffy. They want to make sure that academic wise you're learning what you should learn, like your arithmetic. Arithmetic. I can't believe I said that. Arithmetic, your English, your proper punctuation and shit like that. But outside of that, that's where the schools themselves, they come into play as far as different things that they're going to teach your kid. As far as like do some of them teach life skills, or any are going to teach vocational skills like coding. I consider that a vocational skill now. Huh?
Sorry. I was trying to figure out this. So I did look at different schools, and I was either saying niche or niche.
It sounded like it said bitch. That's what I said. What?
What it's correctly pronounced is niche. So niche.com basically is a site to give you, different ratings of schools and like what to look for in certain schools in terms of their academic level, their teacher to student ratio, diversity, like all these different things, and what they consider the top schools in an area that you're looking for. So you can put in a city or a zip code and it can tell you the top schools. So I was hearing that North Jersey has some of the best public school systems in the country.
Yeah, they do.
Which I thought, was great because I don't hear New York is as good. Which worried me a little bit because then that means there would be private school. But then there are certain people that have.
You didn't hear New York City. You heard New York. Outside of New York. Yeah, outside of the city is good schools.
Right.
Sorry to say that.
But then I was hearing that, private schools have their own issues too in terms of like student behavior and stuff like that. So then I'm thinking like, what do you consider a good, I don't even want to say good. Good is not the right word. An appropriate school that is fitting for your child. I honestly don't think you should look for, the top schools.
Right.
In terms of just academics, it is so much more.
You need an environment that's going to nurture him.
Yes.
Or her.
And in the avenue that you feel that your child personality clings to.
Right.
So for our child, he is very much into computer technology, into mathematics, into science, and I would
drop
say,
the immersion and stick him with that.
Well, I mean, immersion is good too. He's still very cultured in that aspect as well. So
but they're gonna have. They should have those. They like when you hit middle school, you have the. See, I didn't do middle school in DC, I didn't do junior high in DC.
Like a language.
Y'all
program.
had that, right?
Yes. So Spanish or French.
Yeah.
But let me tell you this: my son has been doing this
since I know
for 6 years.
Yeah, I know.
So him going to a French course in middle school,
but
he's gonna blow that out the water. It's not going to be challenging.
He needs the GPA. Let him blow it out the water.
I mean, that's fine. But
let him blow it out the water.
What I'm saying,
I get it, but let him blow it out the water, get that scholarship.
But what I'm saying is, in looking for the schools, it's not just about this one category. I have to figure out what school he's going to excel in, and that's going to be appropriate for him and what he's already passionate about. Now, some people don't have that luxury of doing that. They just have to put their child in a school that is near them because they have to work or they have to do whatever. But I do think that sometimes that can hold your child back in a certain avenue. If your child goes to a school that is, like, let's say your child excels in mathematics and he just goes to a regular public school because you can't afford to put your child in a program that offers that, and then they either hold themselves back because they feel like the kids will be too mad at them or tease them about being too smart, and so they try to dumb themselves down
right.
for that school, or what have you, or your child ends up, acting out socially because like they feel like the workload is too beneath them and they're bored.
Right.
Like this happens. So it's very hard to figure out where your child is going to fit in. Now, my child is very weird in that I feel like he could fit in anywhere.
Right.
But I feel like he would settle better in a more diverse school. So the first thing that I looked for was diversity in the school. So when I look up these schools, I say, all right, let me go to the gallery. Let me see what type of kids y'all have here. And if I'm seeing all white kids and no black kids whatsoever, that's not going to be one of my top schools.
The only reason why I'm smiling, because Shameless just came on.
Uh-huh.
And that was this very issue. Basically, when the father got his black son, and whoever watched Shameless, they know what I'm talking about. So the father got one of the kids into a private school in Chicago, a very good school. So here I am last season thinking like, oh, the father Frank did something good, got his son, his I guess you can say biracial son into a black private school, prestigious school, this and that,
predominantly white.
Yes.
Right.
So this season, the first episode starts off with him complaining about all he do is have recess. So what's been going on is that whenever the headmaster brings prospective parents in to bring their kids and stuff like that, they've been taking them out of class to have them outside playing so they can see that, oh yeah, a black kid goes here too. And the boy's been complaining about it. He was like, he's like, I don't want to play with them. They're in kindergarten. I'm in first grade.
Right.
And he's just out there like, rolling his eyes, like playing with the ball.
Because that is a factor. Although there are like academic levels that your child exceeds in, you still have to think about social stuff as well. Like it's not something that's on the back burner, or you'll be like, oh, who cares if he makes friends as long as he gets his work done.
I guess what I'm saying is, even though you're looking through that gallery, and you see some black kids, it might not be no black kids.
Right. But
you have to go outside.
What I'm saying is that is still something that I look for. Like I have to know what type of environment, one, that the kids are in, if they do talk about social issues, because if that's not a part of their curriculum, to me, being a African American woman, that's something that I take into consideration. And if you're not going to talk about social issues with the kids, like my child is not necessarily going to fit into what they consider to be social issues if you're not talking about I don't think social injustice as well.
I don't think any school does that.
That's not true. My son's school does.
They do?
Yes. They're very, like, if you go and
see, I haven't been in
because you
school.
Don't have no kids.
Yeah,
though.
and I haven't been in school
so
in damn near.
You have to. I think that's something you should look forward to is when they talk about.
Your son's school talks about what's going on like right now?
Yes. So if you go to a school and a part of their mission is about community outreach, you have to look into that school and figure out exactly what that means. Because depending on the school, if they're a diverse school, they're talking about everything. They're talking about Hispanic heritage. They're talking about African American heritage. They're talking about Jewish heritage. They're talking about everything. So it's not just like, oh, this social blanket and all this stuff. Now, my son's school is very woke. So they definitely talk about
see, you didn't have that experience when you were coming up, did you?
I did not.
Yeah, that's why I guess I'm speaking from my experience.
But that's what you have to look in at a school.
Yeah.
What
I didn't know that.
What would you like to have had in your education?
I didn't think I would like to have had that until you just said it. You know what I mean?
That's
like,
what I'm saying.
I'm
but
like,
that's what you have to look into nowadays. And I think it's because of my son's school that I was able to really understand what a good school actually talks about. Because one, in the social media age, everything is out in the open and for discussion, and racism out of all things is more prominent now than it was when we were in school. So these issues are still going to be out there if your child is in an era where they're on every technological avenue.
All right.
So this Time magazine issue for 7 things you need to know about school before you enroll your kid, I still thought was out of date. Actually, this is a 2011 issue. Where's my 2017? Choosing a primary school. Oh, and then I don't have internet access right now because I didn't put on my hotspot. But anyway, one thing that they were talking about was also whether you're going to pick public or private schools, and looking up the tuition and the financial aid aspect. So that's a whole avenue in itself. I think that, my issue was diversity. That's another thing. You do want to look at test scoring and how successful the ratio is for kids in that aspect as well. But I feel like depending on the cultural difference in your family, you would view different things.
Right. And it seems like from looking at the article, you pretty much hit on all that stuff. Like, does it meet your child's needs? Mm-hmm. Does it, basically seeing if how they are at their current school, will the school that they go into or they transfer to be the same to them as far as like their environment?
Oh, here's the article, and it's actually from
thoughtco.com,
not Times. So Times, that was a later issue, but I was looking at the Times article, and
as well,
it was so outdated to me that I thought, no, there has to be something else. Even BuzzFeed had an issue about different things to look at for schooling for your child, and I thought, okay, this is okay, but this is also it's culturally sensitive, so to speak. So I felt like these one thing that they did mention that I was like, this is such a luxury, but it was finding an educating
consultant.
Exactly.
I was
and
reading that shit too.
Oh my God! Who has time for that?
No, see the first
or
thing,
money.
That's what I thought. I'm like, why does everyone want you to pay someone else to do something?
Yes.
A fucking consultant?
No, like do the research yourself. Go to the school, inspect it. Actually,
how much you think educational consultants make? Look that up right quick. No, you go ahead. This
that
is just a
would
sidebar.
be interesting. Yeah, but the thing is like, this is a struggle. You don't have the luxury of paying someone to do that job for you. Like, you have to either figure it out on your own, or you just have to chance it and put your child in a school that may just be convenient in terms of location for work and where you live. Like, maybe you can't afford to send your child to a private school because it's 20 miles away from where you live.
Right. So educational consultants, depending on the company or whatever you work for, on average is $60K.
Damn.
I'm gonna talk to my
Let
wife.
me be one.
I'm gonna talk to my wife about because she can be a teacher as long as she takes the practice and stuff like that. Like she can teach some, I forget what she can teach. She's actually going for a master's in adult education. She should be done pretty soon.
Okay.
But I'm like, shit, man, you could be an educational consultant on the side while you doing this other shit, making some money. But that's neither here nor there. But
I guess they make good money, but that's money that certain people can't afford.
Hell nah.
To do.
Fuck don't. I only need you for a day. Look, run down these schools. This is what I'm looking for. It's kind of like a realtor.
Right.
You only need a realtor up until you buy the house.
Exactly.
So buy the house quickly.
I do think one thing that is important, one point that they brought out is, does your child fit into a certain school? Like, do you think your child would fit in a school? But that also requires parents knowing their child. And when I say that, I mean, don't just view your child as, oh, well, you just go where you gonna go. Right. But knowing your actual child's personality, who they mesh with, who they clash with. I did sort of figure that out with my son. And And that was sort of like his early years.
All right.
He doesn't necessarily clash with anybody now, but before, there was an issue. One that I just think that because of their age, that just how they were going to react to each other.
So he gonna have to leave all his girlfriends.
Well,
I'm just saying, man. That's kind of hard for a fifth grader.
Not really.
It was hard for me. I had to leave all my girls.
At 10?
Yeah, I said it right. It was hard for me to have to leave all my girlfriends.
Well, we are in an age where they both have cell phones. They both have Google Chat.
Oh, okay.
Which is what they do now.
Man.
So
it was hard out there for us. Oh my gosh, man! You move. If you went to a different school, you just went to a different school.
But the
you
thing
left,
is, what's really interesting, I think, about my son's school now, is that in his particular class, and these are like everybody, all the children, they're not focused on boyfriend girlfriend. Like everybody's just friends. Everybody's just cool with each other. I told him, I was like, do you have a crush? Is there somebody you like? He was like,
well, I was telling my mom.
Really.
I was telling my mom that too.
And even the girls there. First of all, I think I mentioned this before.
Yeah,
but I went up to the school. When we went up to the school together, all my son's girl classmates were like gushing over my husband.
Huh?
Yes. They were like, is that your dad? And my son was like, yeah. Like, what? And I guess maybe they thought like we weren't paying attention. I pay attention to damn everything. There's also this one girl that has a crush on my son, and he just is like, okay. But literally, she's one of those patrol girls, like when you pull your car up and they open the door and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. For kids to get out the car and stuff, and they tell you have a nice day. She's literally like on his neck every time he gets out the car. It is so funny, but I was like, oh, she's cute. She likes you. And he goes, yeah, but she's crazy.
Yeah, most of them are, man.
Most of them I was like, well, view it that way and that's fine. But he has his quote unquote best friend. So I'm like, all right, well, we'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
But I also try to encourage just friendship and not necessarily be like, I try not to push, oh, you have a girlfriend or you have a crush kind of thing on him.
I mean, you shouldn't. I mean, school is still about school. So,
but around the time that I was his age, I definitely had boyfriends.
I mean, you thought you did.
Plural. No, I did.
No, you did.
I don't think I was ever single in my entire life. I always had a boyfriend. Maybe for like a few months.
Maybe in kindergarten I was single.
A few months after high school. Nope, not even.
Look, man.
A few months.
Okay. That sounds a little
No, I've always been in a relationship.
Strange.
That's been weird. That's been weird. But yes, so basically that's my struggle this week, trying to figure out the school thing, how that's going to work and such. But we can move on. Cuz I'm stressed talking about it right now. Already. So now I have to move my iPad notes, and I have like the first iPad known to man.
Oh yeah.
The Stone Age.
You got the second one.
iPad, and so things are just not moving in the time that I need it to move. So let's talk about our struggle of the day, which we will be discussing expectations.
Dun, dun,
dun, dun, dun.
Yeah.
What are the expectations that you have for your spouse? What expectations does your spouse have for you? Do you think that you have met those expectations or will meet those expectations? I am curious to know what expectations your spouse, Wes, has had for you, and was that made known before or after the marriage?
I mean, you got to give me I can definitely give you expectations, but you got to give me as far as what their the categories, like what they're pertaining to, like expectations around the house, expectations around the I can get you so much in the bedroom.
Right?
But
No,
you
no,
get
no.
what I mean? Like,
I honestly just
or
mean,
just like relationship. Wow.
I just mean how basically to carry the marriage. What does your
that's
wife
really easy.
expect out of you?
See, it has changed, but not in the way that you think.
Okay.
So
I didn't think nothing. Yeah, you ain't tell me nothing.
But I know I ain't gonna say what you think. I'm gonna say what most people would think as far as like how our marriage is supposed to go, stereotypically. So when we've always talked about it, and before we got married and stuff like that, I told her, we discussed that, how we felt about certain things, and we both were kind of on the same page that things should be 50-50 to a degree. I'm like, I'm 50-50 to a degree, and neither one of us should lose our identity. So we try to go about everything and with that in mind. So as far as me, my expectation,
Lord, that came out of nowhere.
As far as my expectations, I would say what she has of me, it's pretty much still treat her like she's her own person, not really trying to control her or anything like that, which I've never done, or put some unrealistic task on her, like, oh, you should always be cooking, or as soon as you come home, you should be cooking, clothes should be washed. I shouldn't be doing none of that stuff. I told her I would never do that, and nor have I been raised that way. I've been raised to cook for yourself, wash your own damn clothes, clean up after yourself, that type of thing. And that's been going. She will tell you that. She will tell anybody that has not. Well, it's been a month or two, but that has not changed. Kill the bugs, spiders. You're laughing. I'm dead serious. Kill the bugs, spiders, crickets, all that good shit. And just make sure she's okay. Always ask if she's not always ask, but just make sure that she's okay when she comes home. Like if she's home first, or if I'm home first, don't really continue to do. If like let's say I'm doing whatever, I stop whatever I'm doing to make sure like, hey, what's going on? How you been? And give her a hug. This and that. Like I make sure I show her attention, because it's really hard not to show somebody no attention at all when you get consumed on doing what you want to do or doing other stuff. So for the most part, of course, no fooling around with nobody else and stuff like that. But yeah, it's just been treat each other with respect, listen to each other, hear each other out, be open minded.
That sounds pretty.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. And like I said,
pretty fair and easy.
Yeah, we've lived our relationship like that when we were just like boyfriend and girlfriend. So it's been one of those things where, yeah, but that's what it's been. But on the flip side, she feels that she needs to be always cooking or washing clothes. Like, oh no, I got that. I'm like, look, man, I'm not gonna wait all day for you to come home to try to wash the clothes. Not try, because she can wash. I mean, I say try, but for you to wash the clothes or for you to clean the shit. Because I ain't got shit to do while you at work or some shit like that. I'm off for the weekend. You might work this weekend. I'm not going to wait. Like later on today, I got to go grocery shopping. I said I could wait for you, but then I run the risk of I'm too tired or I just want to get something to eat. And then I got to go doing fucking Redskins game and shit like that. I'm like, I'm not doing that. So, shit like that. So now it's kind of flipped where she feels like she should do those things. I'm like, nah, don't do those things. I don't want a woman that does that. Like, be you, continue to do you. We 50-50 over here. Like, if you gonna cook sometimes, I'm gonna cook sometimes.
Right.
I'm gonna wash clothes sometimes, you gonna wash clothes sometimes. Like, you still need to feel like, you're you. Like, the moment the way I see it, and I've seen it, the moment a woman don't feel like she's herself or whatever have you, ain't shit going good for you, bruh. Like, it ain't. Like, food gonna be starting to taste a little bit weird. She gonna stop putting as much excitement into certain things, if you get what I mean.
Right.
I'm not got time for that. I'm not.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Those expectations right now, like that's since it's only been like a month and some change, but
yeah,
I'm pretty sure things will change.
That's fairly new.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because like a lot of times I have conversations with married people and single people that really want to be married. And so I feel like both view everything differently. And because, your relationship is so new, you haven't necessarily had the experience of seeing things go a certain way because in theory, everybody, literally everybody, can say what they want, but how it actually plays out
when certain things happen,
once you live with each other, and I don't mean just physically in the same house, but once you're around each other, when stress levels change and become different because of the rest of your life, world, the world outside of your marriage starts to take a toll on you. So in my avenue, it's been 2 years since we've been married, and 13 since we've been together as a couple, which to me is completely different. Yeah, people will be like, oh, y'all finally got married, but y'all basically been married. No, it is quite different from actually being married, because there are titles that you feel that you have to live up to where you're married. And I don't necessarily think this is a good or a bad thing. It's just that there are expectations that unmarried people have before they get married, and then not necessarily communicating what they expect or would like to happen in their marriage beforehand. And then when they get married, they say, oh, well, we're married now, so you should do this or you should be doing that. When in actuality, you have to understand that you had a relationship beforehand, and the way that you communicated in that relationship before, you should be communicating when you're married, and not have assumptions made about what marriage looks like to you versus the other person.
Right.
Y'all should definitely have those conversations. I think for me, I had an opinion on what marriage was supposed to look like, and I felt like in the beginning that marriage would solve certain problems or issues that we had as a couple before we were married, and then come to find out that wasn't the case. Like, you still have those same problems. And because of the fact that, yes, you have a new title, almost like a promotion, so to speak,
or demotion,
right? But that doesn't mean that title alone is what's going to fix the problem. The problem that you have is what it is, and you have to communicate with each other and understand what's going on, and understand why this person feels this way and why this person feels that way. And believe it or not, within the first year of our marriage, not even the first year, within the first couple of months, we had to get a marriage counselor.
Really?
Yeah. But it wasn't because we felt like the relationship was going to end. It was because we needed to figure out how to communicate better with each other, because one person's opinion versus another is not something that was blending us together,
right,
so to speak. And neither one of us have a personality where we just say, oh, forget it, I'm just going to do what you say because, like, I just don't want to have a problem with you. Like, versus, not saying everybody's like this, but there are a lot of couples that'll be like, I know for one instance, there are some men that have told me before, oh, I just do what my wife says because I don't want to have any problems. Like, yeah, that's fine in theory, but if you're just a type of person that just cannot do what somebody says just because they say it and they're the woman, it's not necessarily fair.
But there's a time and a place. There's certain situations where you do what your wife tells you to do.
Yeah, depending on that thing.
I can't. Yeah, that's what I said. So I can't see, and there are men out there that does everything that their wife tells them to do, because they're much. I'm not gonna use that word, but they're much aggressive, and I'm like,
the wife is aggressive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'm not gonna be in that situation. I would do things just because it depends on what it is. Just because my wife said to do it, like Like one time we got into not even an argument. It was just like it wasn't even heated. It was just like, I can't believe I'm fucking talking about this shit. The way I should kill a bug. I'm dead serious, and I'm like, and this has happened maybe 3 times. So the third time, I'm like, I'm gonna just fucking kill it the way she wants me to kill it.
Wait,
she wanted me
to,
right. So I think it was a cricket or something like that. So like, all right, I'm gonna get a piece of tissue. I'm gonna smush the bitch. I'm gonna flush it down the toilet. She said, no, get the bug spray, spray him so there's no way of him, because I messed up a couple of times. I might have thought I smushed him and I thought I killed him, and then he got back. I'm like, what the fuck? I heard you crunch. So like stuff like that. She's like, oh my goodness, it's still alive. I'm like, what? Like, and then, it's still
she's
going
like, basically,
on. You need to dead that bug. And I'm like, nah, he good. I
like poison him first.
Poison him first. And then smush him. And I'm like, he's good. So I'm like,
there's no way back from that.
Right. So I use bug spray now.
Right,
like if it's a cricket or whatever, we got some bug spray in the basement and shit. So spray the motherfucker, squish him, flush him.
Right.
That's like stuff like that. But like that's the only time I'm like, all right, just do what the fuck you said do. Like I'm not here to be, but you didn't kill him and I don't know if he's still alive and I heard something. Like I'm not doing that shit.
Yeah.
So
no, I think our expectations were more about
living arrangements.
No. It was more about because we had already come from a very lengthy relationship beforehand, and marriage was just like, all right, so are we gonna do this or not? And before, it was almost like a requirement that he felt like he needed to fulfill for me because I needed it.
Right.
And then I thought that marriage was going to heal things for us. When in actuality, we just were some very confused, hurt people that needed to get that together. Right. So in terms of like marriage counseling, it would have, idealistically, it would have been nice to do that first before marriage, but in my mind, as a woman, I'm thinking, I just want the romance and the beauty of what love brings together for a union versus, well, we actually have some problems that we need to work out beforehand before we get married.
All right.
And in the end, it just turned into total chaos. And I think that, from even with my single friends who look at my marriage, although it's very beautiful right now, they're always talking about like basically that social media look on life where all they see is the beauty of it, which is fine. But you have to understand that it comes with work and responsibility. It's not just this beautiful union that came together because we're so perfect for each other.
Right.
It's that we've been together for so long and have grown together in good ways and bad ways with each other, and then deciding to come together, but with different intentions.
You think y'all kind of just stuck in y'all ways a little bit? Because one of my OGs,
yes and no.
Because one of my OGs, he was always telling me, don't wait too long to get married because you're gonna get stuck in your ways and you're gonna feel like everyone is not good enough for you. I'm like, nah, that's not gonna be me. That's not gonna be me. So every couple of months, like, you still working towards. I'm like, yes, I just need to do this. I need to do that.
Mm-hmm.
I need to do this for myself in order to make that step. And he told me the only reason why he's saying this to me is that's because that's the way he is right now. Like every woman he deals with, he's like, he finds little flaws in them and stuff like that. Like, I can't do this because you're this way or blah, blah, blah. And it ain't necessarily bad stuff. It's just that he's waited too long to try to even work with a motherfucker.
Yeah.
To even see how a marriage would be or how a long-term relationship would be. Not that he's dogging him or anything like that, but more or less like he's kind of content with the way things were because it's been so long. He's like, he's going into his 40s. So it's just kind of like, I get it.
Yeah, I think that the purpose of marriage and why you want to get married should be different for everybody. But I feel that no one should get married until they're ready. And it's a very vague thing to say because men and women have their own timelines of when they're ready and why they're ready. One thing that I'm interested in is men's timeline and figuring like, oh, like this is the last time I'm gonna be single and messing around with people or what have you. So, I don't feel like, I don't think I got my numbers up or however. But at the same time,
from man to man.
It does vary. I know that. But I feel like, to be quite honest, I think it needs to be more about life goals versus just you feeling like you just want to do what you want to do.
That's what mine was.
Yeah. Like, what have you accomplished in life that's going to help your family once you actually have one? If you feel like you want to be single for a long time, that's good too, but also understand that it's not fair to have someone wait around for you.
As long as you tell them what it is.
Yeah, you can tell them what it is, but they have to choose and understand what that means. Which is a whole nother thing.
That shit never works because then she hit you with the, well, what if I change my mind? Because I've been in a relationship of, if I change a situation? What if I change my mind? I'm like, well, we can't do this.
Well, that's happened with both of us because when we started as friends, I knew that he was going to be my boyfriend. And he was like, well, I'm not looking for a girlfriend right now. I said, okay, that's fine. Changed his mind about that. Then
he changed his mind or you changed his mind?
No, he changed his mind. Because, we have been friends long enough, but then after a while, it was just like, why not? You're exclusively with me all the time. You're not messing around with anybody else. So, and it just became that. And even in times if I would branch off to like talk to somebody else, he would be like, nah, this is me. This is what I want or whatever. And sometimes it seems like the case. Like if a woman decides to, talk to somebody else in the same way that a man does, then they realize that they don't want them to be with anybody else. They want to solely be with them.
Nah, I've been the guy that you can continue to do that, but are we still doing what we doing? And that's all I cared at that time. If that was to happen, that's all I cared about.
That's not a lot of guys, though.
Shit.
That's not a lot of guys.
And it works out. Just tell her to be safe and shit like that. Good to go.
That's not a lot of guys.
Yeah, I know that. That's why a lot of them lose. You know what I mean?
So it's like you can't have it both ways. But at the same time, I feel like because of our age and where we are now, this is more clear to us than before. In your 20s, you have all of the options. You have to understand that you do. But then some people feel like they want romance and they want everything before they get to their 30s. Because some people feel like when they get to their 30s, everything is over. But what you don't know or understand is that literally life is just beginning. And I think for us, our expectations were that we were just going to be there for each other. If one had one load, then the other would supplement for everything. But life just sort of caved in at a certain point, and it was like, well, that's not working.
So there was never no expectations of we're going to have fun, we're going to travel, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. Because that's what me and my wife talk about. We talk about stuff outside of the responsibilities and shit like that. Like she stay goofy, I stay goofy. Like we always looking for something to get into, something to do. Something that's gonna, like, we chill like we are best friends, but we chill.
Well, for us, that wasn't an expectation because that's what we were already doing.
But why can't it still be an expectation if it ever stops?
No, but we did not have in mind that particular thing would stop, and it hasn't stopped for us. Okay. So that wasn't an issue. What was what was an issue for us was sort of supplementing areas needs that were not met for us before. So whether that was romantically or financially or things like that, we're sort of expecting if one does this, then the other should do this sort of thing. Even in the beginning when it started 50-50, but I feel like once you communicate why we feel like these are the reasons why we feel this way, these are the reasons why we feel that way, even though you're not going to have a definite answer at the end of the day, but it's still a conversation that you should have and constantly be working on. If not, then that may mean that the marriage is going into another direction. But I think that it's healthy to continually discuss what your expectations are for each other. And if they do change, who acknowledges that and understands that that's something that you need to work on. So I guess that's a part of my takeaway.
I didn't have a takeaway. Now I'm thinking about it.
Well, you only a month in, so
Yeah.
I don't know necessarily if you have a takeaway, but I think that expectations will change depending on your life, with also
Growth.
Yeah, growth, what also intersects in your life, whether or not all of a sudden your spouse has a sudden calling that they didn't have before.
Yeah,
is important. Whether there's loss in family or together. Whether it's a job or something like that, that does affect things as well. Not necessarily on each other, but individually, things can affect you, and you may be taking it out on your relationship and not knowing that. But I feel like as long as you all communicate with each other and try to work on those things together,
I would say above,
then it'll be fine. When you give up on it, I think that's where the issue
I would say above all
starts.
My takeaway would probably be for me to remember to always be open-minded, because as you were saying, things expectations are going to change. And when I say growth, as you grow, you're not going to be the same person you was a year ago, a month ago, maybe even 10 minutes ago. So you're not going to be the same person. There's going to be some level of growth, whether it's large, small, whatever incremental measurement it is. Being open-minded with any of that stuff is always the best thing to do, because that is a person that you're sharing your life with, and that is a person that's your partner. So if they're growing, or they're like, I don't like to do this anymore, or I see why I shouldn't do this, or I want to start doing this, they give you a reason. If that's your partner and you love them, be thinking, give them that opportunity to do that. Show them that you got their back, and
compromise. But to me, the definition of compromise,
expectations, not like,
expectations.
Yes.
Compromise meaning you give up something for the other person, and I don't think that that's necessarily true.
That's not compromise.
You can still
compromise,
but a lot of people view compromise as that. Like I am giving up a certain thing that I used to do so that you can do this.
Compromise is meeting in the middle.
Yes.
Who people think that?
No, it's like, all right, so you do this job and I'll stop working and take care of everything at home. And then when you're done, it'll be my turn. Like, that's how they feel. They feel like I compromise this.
That's a particular compromise.
Right.
Compromise is no one fully has what they want. You meet in the middle somehow. So that could be a compromise where he probably wants you just to stay at home. You're like, nah, not you particularly. Right. This is you, but the husband wants her to stay at home, and the wife is like, no, I don't want to stay home forever. Well, I don't want to stay home in general. So the plan is, after 3 years, you going back into the workforce. We figure it out at that point.
Right.
And some husbands, I do know, they'll be a little sneaky and be like, well, daycare, who's going to be doing this? We just don't have the money to pay for that. And then the wife is stuck at home.
Yeah.
I've heard
it's a lot of avenues that come with this marriage thing. It's not just the glitz and glam, but you got finances, you got bills, you got debt that you had before you got married.
Yeah.
Whole bunch of shit that y'all literally have to work through together and figure out, for yourselves. And then, like, how does that affect your relationships? Are y'all still going to be best friends, or are we going to be sort of business married partners? They're very different avenues in what people
I don't see how
think marriage is.
That never when you mix business with marriage, that seems to never work.
Not necessarily.
Shit, I can name 3 of them.
Not that you have a business together,
No, I get what
but
you're
if
saying.
you view your marriage like how
I'm talking
you
about-
take care of your business and how you take care of your marriage and have those sort of parallel to each other,
Right.
can work in certain aspects.
I don't believe it can. Only because with a business, let's just say you treating it that way. Are you treating everything like that way? And then, are you treating everything that way? Because I can't see you treating her or him emotionally like you would treat a business. Like, okay, we're in the bed, time to spoon. That's been 30 seconds of spooning.
No
I
one
turn over.
does that.
You don't know
That's
that.
not what I mean.
That's what I thought, though.
But actually, no, that's not true, because there are some people, and like I said, you know, you have not been married that long, and neither have I, for that matter. But there are people who literally have to schedule sex at certain times because their lives are quite busy and they barely can do stuff like that.
I'm cool with that. Give me some spontaneous, and I.
But that is a
scheduling.
business approach to a marriage.
Scheduling sex.
Yes.
I guess.
So that's how that goes. But that's it for our struggle of the day. Now on to doing it for the culture.
Yeah.
What we got this week?
This culture is very rapey and sexual assaulty. If that's even a word.
It is. And the thing that's bothering me about that.
You know what? I was just, not to cut you off. They tried to get Bill Cosby out the paint. They got him out the paint. And after Bill Cosby, everyone else out there has been white, and I want to see if they're gonna do the same thing. I mean, they taking people off. They decided to X out Kevin Spacey in a fucking movie that's supposed to be airing in December. And they're like, nah, we just gonna reshoot your whole shit. And I hate to say it, I'm glad they kind of giving the white folks the same type of
because
the same type of energy that they gave Bill Cosby. I mean, it's wrong across the board, But
you were curious about whether or not they was going to treat white people the same way they did the black.
I mean, that just came into my head when it was Louis C.K. and then it was fucking Charlie Sheen again. I'm like, what the fuck? And who was the other guy? And Terry Crews did a police report about what happened to him and shit. It's like this all happened this week, so I'm like,
really? I didn't hear the Terry Crews thing.
Exactly. So Terry, he went. TMZ called him outside of the police department. He said he filed what do you call it? Filed a police report and
about what?
You didn't hear about it?
I just said I didn't hear the story about Terry Crews.
I was just telling my wife about this shit. So he was just on Twitter and he was like, he got sexually assaulted too. Not even sexually assaulted, but yeah, let me not say that. He called it sexual assault.
Allegedly.
No, it wasn't allegedly. People seen it.
Okay.
So I'm laughing only because I'm like, he should have beat this motherfucker's ass. Because it's Terry Crews.
What happened?
Long story short, so he's with his wife at this executives party, house party and stuff like that, and the guy goes in to grab his dick in front of his wife. And Terry Crews, he smacked his hand, like, what the fuck are you doing? And Terry Crews was like, at that moment, he wanted to beat his ass, but how was that going to look in the paper? Big Terry Crews beats up on white man. So he didn't do it. And he said that happened a year ago. And just came out that also during that party, the guy was giving people wedgies too. So in my head, I'm like, so this just sounds like some shit white boys do, because white boys do dumb shit like that.
Yeah.
Like
but
playing with your butt. And I just speak like that. Playing with your
shit. That is very weird
doing dumb shit like that.
But at the same time, it's like you wonder what is the line when it comes to sexual assault.
There is no line. You just don't do it.
Right. Exactly.
There is no line.
You just don't do it. But I think what has happened in the past couple decades, or more than that, is that Hollywood people with money, feel like they can do so much because they have the money. And that shit is starting to catch up with them now because of
I don't even think it's
this society we live in right now. This very high profile, high public society where everything is just out there. Now, actually, I found a little relief because a part of me was less was less eager to work in film spaces because rumors of sexual assault, and I'm not the type of person that that would compromise my passion to let you get away with a touch and feel, or even a fuck for that matter.
Right.
So I was in no hurry to be in people's films because of stories that I would hear from actual people that I've gone to school with, people that I've actually worked with, that said literally it was like, okay, well, you have this opportunity to either fuck me or go about your business. Yeah. You know, and I'm not liable to say who that was or companies or anything like that. But for me, it was like, well, I'm not necessarily in a hurry for that.
That happened to you?
Not to me,
per se,
someone, but to people that I know.
Gotcha.
Who basically have those same goals that I do.
Right.
I think that though I feel that people are going to be much more careful with how they handle themselves and other people. So I feel like maybe this can make this avenue a safe haven now, or not necessarily a safe haven, but a safer environment now, because everything is put out there. But at the same time, like, literally just keep your fucking hands to yourself.
Or sometimes they were keeping their hands to themselves and they were just pulling out their dicks, which is even
that's still gross.
That's some. And not to bash homeless people, that's some homeless man on the subway type shit, and that's what you result to. Like, so
I don't know. It's like people think that, like, one, it's all greed. Like, their mind just goes to, I can get whatever I want because I have money, and they feel that they can pressure people into doing these things. Not the fact to mention that, one, you're a predator because you're doing this to people who have less than you, who in your eyes mean less than you, and you feel like they're not going to say anything because you can tarnish their reputation. And I've had actual friends who literally, they've told me these things, but they at first never mentioned anything because they thought that they could ruin their entire life because of that, until one day they decided, but too little too late, that I just can't do this anymore.
All right.
And decided to, give it up. And was like, it's not the life I want to live. So it's terribly sad that we're in this era. And then, not to discredit people's reports and allegations and stuff like that, but if you literally just want some media attention, or you just don't like somebody and want to get them in trouble, keep that fucking shit to yourself, because the people that actually have been traumatized and raped and sexually assaulted, like, this is their time to actually get some type of, well, I can't even say closure because you don't know what they're going to get out of this, but the fact that they even feel safe now to actually say something about what happened to them is much, much better than you just trying to shine a light on somebody because you don't like them, or because, you want some type of attention, or you want some money.
Yeah.
So
and what's crazy,
it's a moral battle.
The fact that this is going on, and you know how some people was like, Bill ain't doing, not all those women and shit like that. It almost makes this Bill Cosby thing all 100% believable. At first I was like,
but you know what?
At first I was like 95%, but now I'm like, God, because I'm young. I didn't grow up in that era. I knew nothing of I'm fairly young. I knew nothing of that stuff that went on back then, and nor do I pay attention to anything that's going on in Hollywood like that. But when you got people like Charlie Sheen back in the fucking news again, and then Louis C.K., and then I didn't even know who fucking Harvey Weinstein was until this shit. And then Terry Crews said it happened to him. I'm like, this is you heard about the Charlie Sheen thing though, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, this is a thing? I'm like, this is sick. You know what I mean? I'm like, oh.
Yeah. But the thing is, and not to get too deep into it, but for people that are like, oh, he didn't do this to all these women. What if it was just one? Like, so the fuck what if it wasn't all these women?
Yeah.
If it was at least one, that is still terrible.
In my head, the only thing they keep playing, and I'm going to find a soundbite for the shit just so I can intro into this shit. And you probably haven't even seen it. Power when 50 when Kanan. What season are you on the Power?
I finished Power.
Yeah. So you remember when Tariq was asking Kanan, he was like, "So you think my dad did it?"
Mm-hmm. He was like, he did that shit.
He said he did that shit. And that's what it keeps playing back in my head when I hear this shit. I'm like, yeah, he did that shit.
He did that shit.
He looked like a creep. Oh my God.
It's crazy out here.
Yeah.
It's crazy. All right, y'all. It's about that time.
Yes, it is.
You ain't got to go home. But who you want to shout out this week?
I want to shout out my wife. Actually, this week was her birthday. Wednesday was her birthday, so
happy birthday!
I took her to Dirty Habits. And
Dirty what?
It's a nice restaurant.
It's called Dirty Habits.
Dirty Habits, yeah.
It's a food restaurant.
Yeah.
What y'all eat?
She had a fucking $35 steak.
Oh my gosh!
All right, but now they got a bunch of different stuff. It's based off a restaurant in San Fran, but it's right smack dab in the middle of a.
They got sex toys and stuff.
Why would I go there?
Where did they get the name Dirty Habits? Like, what is that?
It's just the name of the restaurant.
So it has no correlation to nothing.
It's really nice inside. I'll show you the screenshots when we off air and shit.
Okay.
Not screenshots, but how it looks. But basically, I forget what hotels basically it's in the courtyard of a hotel.
Mm-hmm.
So as soon as you walk in, you see lamp. It's a very nice. It is a dope place.
Describe to our listeners. They got a picture.
All right, Dirty Habits. So as soon as you walk in, see, that's the thing. The theme just looks ultra modern. Very nice ambiance when you get in there. I think it's like a fucking velvet door we walk through and some shit like that. Like nice fabric door.
So it looked like a Playboy mansion or something. It has to with a name like that. It looks
like, yeah, to a degree. Glass everywhere. Outside seating, outside fire pits, outside bar. Mm-hmm. So it's in let me finish. So the hotel is surrounded in the courtyard of the hotel is the restaurant area. And it's on 8th Street. 8th Street and what
Northwest?
Yeah. And I forget what museum was right there, but there's a museum right there as soon as you come down. You would never see it unless you actually are looking for it. And it's right across the street from a garage. But yeah, it's nice. When we went, of course it was at night, but when we went there, lamps all around, fire pits, sofas outside, and when you go inside, glass everything, kitchen, bar, stuff like that. So it was pretty nice. So it was her birthday Wednesday, so I want to shout her out because I forgot to say that's what I did this week. So what I ended up doing was those are flowers too. So what I ended up doing was before I left for work, I left the flowers and a card in her dressing room, quote unquote, lady lounge and shit like that. So when she woke up, she gotta go take a piss or some shit like that. She gonna see it. Bam. She seen that. She sent me the thank you text. I'm like, yeah. She told me I was sneaky because she don't know how I got it in here. I literally left the flowers and the shit in the car because I couldn't put it in here because she too nosy. So, and then we came home, told her to get ready. That's what we want. So, shout out to my wife.
Yeah. That's cool. I'm trying to figure out where I had this video, but it's gone. Shout out to
the high note.
Hold on. Shout out to all the fan art on social media.
Cool.
A lot of people, like most celebrities, they get fan art from certain artists, and I think it was Martin Lawrence had put up a recent one from someone. I just think that one is so dope. One, I also want a Martin mural in my house. But recently he had someone from, I think it's pronounced Crelon Art. That's at CYREELON Art. And it's just a picture of Martin, but he likes to put a lot of his fan art out there. This particular artist does fan art for a lot of people. He did Taraji. He did Michelle Obama. I mean, it's just It's super dope. So I always just find different artists based on the celebrities that tag them in their posts and stuff like that. There's also another artist he put up on Halloween that painted a picture of Martin in the episode where someone stole his CD player and he had the little fake dog, the little fake Doberman pinscher.
Yeah.
And that was artist c.ray.art, who's actually amazing. And he's also created different artwork on t-shirts and things like that. I think he did a French Montana mural not too long ago. He did a Biggie, what's it called? Shit, I'm forgetting people's names right now. A Mary J. Blige, a lot of people, but just shout out to all the artists out there that are getting publicity through celebrities with their work.
Shout out to y'all.
Yeah, that's a good thing. Should get noticed, and then support Black businesses. So
yes, indeed.
Maybe when I get my own place, I can order some stuff from these people, add to my collection. Because literally, if I'm thinking about my dream house, and if I want people to walk in, I just want it to be like culturally specific things that people could really get into. And it'd be really funny. Because we literally at work, me and all my Black friends, we quote Martin like on a regular basis. And all the white people are like, that's funny, but don't know what they're talking about, where it comes from. And I'm just like, well, just watch the show and you'll know.
Right.
But to me, I think that it's universally funny and that everybody will get, but sometimes, things are just culturally specific.
Right.
So I walk around with my Shanae keychain on my keys, and all the white people are like, who's that? And I'm like, don't worry about it.
It ain't don't for worry you, bro. About it. It could be for you, but,
Could, but it's not. Oh, and shout out to my husband, too, for this promotion that he just got. We moving on up in the world.
Moving on up. I'll
Shall
insert
we struggle any longer? Maybe not.
Oh, everybody struggles. It's just it's different types.
More money, more problems.
It's levels to
right?
it, right? Yeah.
So, if you would like to, and I hope you would, follow us on all of our social medias, or our social meds, some people call it, at struggle_real87. That's our Twitter account. Our Instagram is at struggleisreal87. I almost always forget my Twitter handle personally, but it is m.tsir podcast. That's M spelled D-O-T.
Oh my gosh.
TSIR podcast. TSIR standing for The Struggle Is Real. Again, that is M.
I'm Wesley Presley 1. You can find me on Instagram or on Twitter with Wesley Presley 1.
So complicated.
Oh no, it's Wesley _Wesley Presley.
See, you gotta get it right. Get it right.
Wesley _Presley 1.
I find that I may have to get a smaller Twitter handle, but I still like it though.
Yeah.
I do. People will get it. They'll figure it out.
All right, guys. Well, definitely give us some check out the give us a good rating on iTunes. We're on iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn Radio, all that good stuff. SoundCloud. Leave some comments, and we'll see you next week.
All right.